Hi there, this is Anthony Dubois with MicroGrinder Poker School. I am a student coach for the school and welcome to this Tools of the Trade video about Flopzilla. Okay, so the website that you have right in front of you on the screen is the main Flopzilla website where you can download the software from. So the address of this software is, well, very easily titled flopzilla.com. Yeah, you can also Google it, you're going to find it very easily. And once you're on that page, then you go into the download tab and you can download the Flopzilla basic version, which is 1.8.6 at the minute, or the Flopzilla Pro. They both come with a 7-day trial, and basically you can access all of the software's features for free during that selected period of time. Once you have elapsed the 7 days, then you will have to pay for the software if you want to use it any further. If you want to purchase a key, a license key, then you will have to pay $25 and then request your key, and that will allow you to activate the product forever. So a few things I'd like to say before we jump into the actual software. First of all, it is not obligated for you to buy this product, yeah? So this is the one that I use, so I'm gonna go through it with you. But if you do not want to spend $25, you can do the most majority of the things I'm going to show you with Equilab, yeah? So Equilab is a free software. It should be available on lots of different places on the internet, and you can do similar work with it. Let's just say that Flopzilla is a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit more powerful, and has a little bit more options on what you can or can't do with it. But again, both are fine. Do not feel forced to buy this product. But if you do have it, then it's perfect. And if you don't have it, then I still recommend that you have a look at this video, because most of the stuff I'm going to discuss is also stuff that you can do with Equilab. Right, so that's it. Now we are in Flopzilla. So this is the main interface, the main screen that you will interact with. On the left-hand side, you have all of the ranges. All of the one with the black letters here, the black titles, are predefined ranges that are included with the software. So if you click on the plus, you can just expand and see what we have here. And if you put your mouse over any of the titles, then you can actually see what they look like, yeah? So these are very, very, you know, standard / generic ranges. Yeah, you don't have to use them. You can delete them if you want. You can replace them with whatever range that you feel are suitable. And please do remember that we have lots of ranges available on lots of different situations pre-flop in the MicroGrinder Poker School website. Okay, so if you want to add ranges yourself using the software, then you will first click on add category, yeah, and under the category you will add a range. Yes, so this will be my test one, and then you will, you know, add whatever hands that you want. Yeah, let's say I want all the broadways. That's it. So this is the broadways, and then I will click on my test one only once, and at the bottom here go for overwrite. I don't need to rename it, just accept, and that's it. This range has now been saved under test one. If I double click on any other range, let's say this one, and I go back to my test one, again, if I put my mouse over it, it will show it to me, and if I double click on it, it will actually select it, right? Okay, so that's how you add ranges. You can also import ranges. It's a little bit more, let's say, a little bit more precise. You have to go under settings and then import predefined ranges from new devs 2 or new devs 3. If you click on this, then you have the choice to add from new devs 3 or new devs 2. New devs 2.txt is basically a Flopzilla basic version range. Basically, this is how it saves its ranges, and if you want to import it from the normal Flopzilla into Flopzilla Pro, then you're gonna use this one. And if you want to import ranges from Flopzilla Pro into your own Flopzilla Pro, then you will use this one. And if you want to replace the ranges you actually have, then go here. And if you want to import into separate categories, then click on that little button here. To import any ranges, so you have basically to make sure that they are compatible with the software and the name of the file is actually newdevs2 or newdevs3.txt, right? And then just click on import ranges. If there's any problem, then the software will let you know about it. And if you have any issues with that, please do not hesitate to contact either myself or Alton or any of the other coaches that we have available for you. You can contact us on the Facebook group and we will help you the best we can with that. Okay, so let me delete this because we don't need it anymore. Let me clear the whole matrix here and let's start talking about this one. So these are all the hands that you can have in the beginning pre-flop. So there's a 1326, yes, combos. Well done. And this is how you edit your range. So let's say that you want to add a certain percentage of the pre-flop starting hand, right? So you can use this slider here to kind of drag it all the way to where you want it. Yeah, let's say 20%. Or if you want, you can actually enter the number here. So if I want 45%, that's it. This is what it looks like. It's not going to be always exactly the percentage that you want because every single box here represents more than one combo. Yeah, there's 1326 combos. So like one pair is 6 combos, one suited is 4 combos, and one offsuit is 12 combos. So you won't have exactly what you want, but it's not really a big issue really. Okay, so the next thing you can do is if you want all pocket pairs, when you click on here, if you want to remove them, click again, all the broadways, all the suited, and obviously the red boxes are the off-suit hands. Also, what you can do is simply left click on any of the boxes or even drag your mouse all around to add hands. Same again, if you want to remove, then click on the box that's already added. And then you can just drag your mouse and remove whatever you want. So all of these tools here, very user-friendly. You can use this to have the range that you want. So in my case, I don't know, I'm going to go through something like a little bit classic, you know, let's say like a UTG range. There we go, like let's say something like this, right? A little bit tight UTG range. A little bit tight, yeah. Okay. So the first thing that we can see here, so obviously there's a huge graph right here that I will talk about a little bit later, but for now, let me go into this thing here. So there's lots of different categories of hands and lots of different percentages. So what this tells us is, based on the range that we have inputted on the left-hand side, this range in particular will hit on a random flop these hands, this number, this percentage of the time, right? So again, let me say it again with different words. With this range of hands, you will have 3 of a kind on, you know, any random flop 4.25% of the time. You will hit 2 pairs 1.40% of the time, over pairs 11.52% of the time, etc. Right? So this is a very good tool to kind of show you what you can expect post-flop to have. Yeah, so if you have this range and you open from UTG under the gun and the flop comes, somebody calls you or something, yeah, doesn't matter really, you see a flop, you know that you will have a good hand, you know, as in top pair or more, 15 plus 11 plus 5, which is, I'm going to say 31%, almost like 32% of the time. Also, you're going to have straights, flush, full houses and quads on the flop, or on the turn on the river, again, like pretty much 1% of the time altogether. So 32 to 33% of the time, you're going to have a very good hand. Yes. So this is interesting to see, because also it will give you a good indication of what you can expect from your opponent's range. Yes. So if you're on the big blind and the UTG raises pre-flop and you know that he's a little bit of you know, a regular, he's got okay ranges, certainly not a lunatic, and you call from the big blinds, then, you know, on lots of different boards, he's gonna have something decent, yeah? So that's the first thing that is quite nice with this software. You can actually see a breakdown of what the range looks like once the board has come. Talking about the board, we can actually enter the board cards right here. So you can see the board right at the top here. So if I start putting cards, you will see that they appear. Yeah, so let's see, I'll put a random board, yeah, so ace, jack 7, rainbow. And now all of the graphs have changed. So this is still the range that we are talking about. And now on this particular board, we can tell that this range has a set 7.50% of the time, etc. Yeah, I already explained to you what that means, but you can see that on this board, for example, that range is going to have top pair 40% of the time. So that's really interesting again, because when you are in this situation, again, you're on the big blind, UTG has raised with this range about, and this is the board that comes. You know that you're not in very good shape, because 40% of the time he's got a pair of aces with something, and more than 16, 17, 18% of the time almost, he's going to have even better than top pair. So pretty much like almost half of the time he's got a very strong hand. So that should indicate to you the kind of caution that you want to use during this hand. Yeah, so basically when you see bets, yeah, okay, maybe see bets with 100% of his range, but 100% of his range includes all of these hands. Okay, so if you click on, cards again, it will automatically add a turn, then a river, then you can do whatever you want. Then you can, remove a card, put other cards, etc. And all the time you will have the breakdown of the range. So what you can do as well is you can isolate some hands in his range on every street. So the way you do this is, so let's keep this board, yeah, ace, jack 10, rainbow. And let's say that you're analyzing a hand, UTG raises, you call from big blind, and UTG went for, I don't know, let's say that he checked back the flop, right? So it was check on the flop. You're going to assume that because it checks back, he does not have, let's say it doesn't have a pair of aces, right? That's it. Very simple. I'm not trying to be like accurate or like 100% this is what's happening on a real game, but I want to demonstrate how you can illustrate this kind of concepts with the software. So on the left hand side of every denomination of the hands, you can see this little filter. And if it's blue, it's active. If it's not blue, it's not active. Very easy. And you have lots of different colors if you want to put hands in different sets. And now you're like, ooh, that's nice and pretty. Okay, so we have said that he does not have top pair. Yeah, it checked back, so he doesn't have top pair, and maybe he doesn't have two pairs and sets and straight. Like all of his strongest hands, we know he doesn't have them because he didn't bet them, right? So now what you want to do is click on this F filter. So F stands for flop. It's red, which means it's not active, and if you click on it, it will become green, and it will show you what hands you have in your filters. So it does not include, again, top pair and better. So you can see that the aces are not here because they're grayed out. Ace jack, which is two pair, is not here. King queen, which is a straight, is not here, etc. And now it can give you a very nice visualization of what his range looks like. And when the turn comes, because again we're in a hand, yeah, we're analyzing a hand, it was check on the flop. Let's say that the turn comes a 7 of diamonds. Now we have a new filter that happens, yeah? So we check again because in that hand we have exactly nothing, and now he bets, right? So we are going to assume that he is gonna bet his top pairs, and again, well, actually, let me just, because he didn't bet his top pair before, so how can he have a top pair here? That's interesting. Oh, yeah, okay, I understand. Okay. So, yeah, because again, sometimes one hand can be more than one category, right? So here, if I don't include top pair and I put the filters on, it's still gonna show you some aces because these are basically flush draws, So here you've got all of the aces here apart from ace jack and ace sevens, which are two pairs, and all of these are flush draws, right? And also you're gonna have some good shots. So ace 9 is a good shot with an 8, ace 8 with a 9, ace king with a queen, and ace queen with a king. Yeah, so as you can see, the top pair also highlights at 22% because it tells you basically that those hands are in both categories, and sometimes even in 3 categories, because turns out it's also a flush draw in that case. So we say that he's gonna bet his, his flush draws only, and so he doesn't have this anymore. Yeah, so he's gonna only bet his flush draws. That's it. Yeah, he's betting on the turn. We know we only have a flush draw. So that's his range on the flop. And now we apply the turn filter, and now that's his range. So now we can see he's got ace king, ace queen, king queen, ace 10, ace 9, ace 8, and ace 6 and less, all the way down to ace 2 suited. This is his range, and that helps us a lot to understand what we should be doing with our hand. In that case, we have nothing, we just fold. Yeah, so this is very, very interesting way of understanding the dynamics of the hand, the interaction of somebody's range with a board, and also the interaction between somebody's actions and his range, right? So let me clear all of this. So hopefully that's a little bit more clear, that you can understand the uses of it. And now let's go into the dead cards. So let me go back to what we had actually. So it was something like this, right? And we had maybe like 15% of hands, doesn't really matter. We had something like this, right? Tack, tack, yeah, there we go. So something like this, I believe we had. So now let's pretend that in our hand we had a pair of nines. Yeah, so the dead cards here are to signify which cards are not in the deck anymore. So obviously in online poker, it doesn't mean much. It just means that the hands are on the board or in our hand, and that's it. Yeah, because we don't see any other card until the showdown. If you are analyzing a hand from live play, then I guess you can put, like, if somebody exposed the card by mistake before the end of the hand, then you can put it in the dead cards. But the main function of this is it's going to give us the equity of our hand against the range that we have selected. So let's say we have pair of nines, yeah, with a diamond. So yeah, I guess we have a little bit of a different range. There we go. Okay, so with a pair of nines, in that box here, you can see that the equity of our hand, actually, let me just, there we go. So the equity of our hand against his range pre-flop is 51%. And as we add cards on the, the flop, the turn, the river, and all of that, the equity is going to change. And if we start adding filters, then the equity will also update. So in that case, it was a little bit like this. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what it is. But what matters is we know that on the turn, he's only betting his flush draws, nothing else. And he didn't bet his top pairs on the flop. Now we have nines, what should we do? So if we look here, we know that he's not going to basically make us stick around. Yeah, we're gonna have to fold because we have 9% equity in the hand, right? Why do we have 9%? Because it happens that all of his flush draws are actually ace. And that doesn't make much sense to me. I'm sorry, I'm talking back to this. But if he didn't bet his top pairs, then how can you have an ace-high flush draw? Oh, I know why, of course. Of course, I know why, yeah. So it's interesting that I make this mistake myself, because it will happen to lots of other people. So in the filters here on the flop, I said he's not going to bet his top pairs, right? But again, one hand can be part of more than one category. So let me just remove the turn, right? So he's not betting top pair and all, yeah, but he's gonna have 2 card backdoor flush draws, which includes a pair of aces. He's gonna have a gut shot which does not include aces this time, and some no-made hands, etc. So yeah, so this is why basically. So we know he doesn't bet his top pairs, but if he's going to bet his backdoor flush draws, then it will include some aces, and this is why. So it's actually really, really nice that I have made this mistake on the video, because it will give you a good understanding of the kind of mistake that you don't want to make when you analyze a hand. There we go. I hope some of you weren't shouting too much on your screens like, oh my god, how can you have an ace? There we go. So let's go back to our hand. So with all the filters, now we know that our pair of nines is no good, because we are most of the time against an ace and a flush draw. We are pretty much dead, right? we are hoping for basically 2 outs. Yeah, the only outs that we have is going to be a 9 or a 9 of hearts. Yeah, 9 hearts or spades. Okay, so that's pretty good. We now understand how that works. And there we go. Let me take all of this off. So now let's talk about this graph here. So this is basically a visual representation of how much the filters represent of his range in percentage. So if we say that this guy with this range on this board, there we go, let's take everything off. We want to see exactly how often he's gonna have top pair and more. Yeah, so top pair and more, boom. He's gonna have this 43.97% of the time on this board. So that's a good indication again of something like a range advantage. You know, if you are again big blind versus UTG on this board, you know that he's gonna have a very strong hand 43% of the time. So you know he's got the range advantage over you because you have a very wide range. Let me illustrate actually. Your BB defend could be something like this. Yeah, obviously it's not extremely accurate because it's a generic way of doing it. But yeah, let's say your BB defense is something like this. Yeah, maybe some of that off. I go, this goes off. Okay, so now you can see that your range has a top pair or better 35% of the time. So it's like 9% of the time less compared to the first range that we've just seen. So this is a very good indication that your opponent has a range advantage, yes? And actually, let's be even more accurate because we will 3-bet those hands. Yeah. There we go, so 30% of the time, it's even worse, which makes sense anyway. 29%, I'm getting there. Right, so again, now if we have a look here, we can see that we have some top pairs, we have sometimes 2 pair, and very rarely we have a set, because we don't have aces and jacks, we have only 7s here in our range, and we don't have straights, obviously, because it's impossible. And if we go back to the guy's range, with something like this, yeah, whatever it was, something very similar, we can see that he's got loads more 2 pairs, loads more sets, and yeah, that means he also has a nut advantage. So this is some concepts that you will have to get familiar with in poker: range advantage and nut advantage. I'll give you a very quick definition. It's not the purpose of this video, but let me just illustrate. A nut advantage basically means that a particular player in a hand has all of the best hands possible, or at least more best hands possible than the other one. In that case, he's got aces, he's got jacks, we don't have aces, we don't have jacks, yeah? So he's got more nutted hands, yeah, more best hands. And the range advantage is more of an understanding of how the range interacts with the board and how often we hit some good hands, right? So here, as we said just before, he's going to have a good hand 44% of the time. So now I've changed it again, so it's 55%. And with our big blind different range, we're going to have something like, you know, whatever, like 22, 30% of the time, right? And this means he's got a range advantage over us. And this kind of stuff is going to help you again to decide what to do with your hand. So anyway, with all of this out of the way, the last thing I need to show you on this beautiful software is the multiplayer mode. We have this right here on the top left next to the settings. So if we click on it, it is going to show us some options here where we can add ranges. So very similar to Equilab, yeah, when you can compare up to 6 different ranges, or even possibly even more, I believe, but at least 6. And this is where it gets juicy. So let's say that we are in a multi-way pot. Let's say it's a 3-bet pot because it's all crazy, right? So we are UTG under the gun. We are going to open something like this. It's just for the purpose of the video, right? So it doesn't have to be accurate. So this is our range, yeah? There's no board. Somebody on the button is going to call. So you know what? Let's just do this. Boom, so that's his calling range on the button. Maybe it's, you know, doesn't matter if it's tight or not again. And the big blind is going to squeeze. So the big blind is going to squeeze us with a very strong range, yeah? Because this is what it should do from the big blind. All right, And we are going to call only, so that means we won't have aces, we won't have kings, we won't have queens, and probably not ace king as well. And we probably will just fold some of these hands. Again, doesn't have to be accurate. I know it looks slightly ridiculous, but yes, the point is this, right? Now we have 3 different ranges, yeah? We have ourselves, UTG, we have the button that also calls with, you know, whatever. He calls again, he folds the bottom of his range, and now he's got these hands and the big blind. This guy doesn't exist. Bye-bye. The board comes. I'm going to use the random function here. This is the board. And the beautiful first thing is you can see the equity of each range on this board. So the board is 5-5-3 with a flush draw. And the first thing that you can see is that the big blind squeezing range is actually a big favorite. He's got 53% equity against both of our ranges. Our range is a close second, as in close to the third, not close to the first, with our ace, queen, king, queen, and ace, jack, and pair of jacks. And finally, the button range is not doing very well here. And again, if you select the ranges, everything updates for you. You can see how often somebody is going to have any type of hands. So now I click on mine, I'm going to have an overbear 20% of the time, ace high 66%, etc. 2 of the cards 4 times out of 5. So that's really, really useful. And also you can see a lot of different things here that happened. So we still have the groups, yeah. So we know that the hands that we have in the filters represent 30% of our range. So in that case, these are flush draws, flush draw over cards and over pairs, yeah, because all of these are basically 0%. If I'm not mistaken. No, I am not. Well done me. So that's it. And then again, if you change the range, you can see how that changes. Now we also have the equity graph, right? So the equity graph basically takes all of your range, yeah, all of your combos, all of your hands together and puts them in an equity graph. So on this list is all of the hands that the big blind will have, all of them, yeah, all of ace queens, you know, suited, unsuited, all of ace kings, and they are sorted by order of equity. So the worst hand possible that the big blind can have is ace queen of diamonds, yeah. And we can see on the graph, as I hover over this one on the graph, so at this part of the graph, yeah, you can see the equity, the chances to win and the chances to tie with the other 2 ranges here. And if we progress to the top, we can then see the best hand, which is this particular pair of aces with a spade and a club. Why these 2 and why, let's say, why not, I don't know, ace of diamond and hearts? This is because the suits match the suit on the flop, yeah? So that means this pair of aces in particular can make a backdoor flush draw if 2 other spade comes, and it can also make impossible for anybody else to have the best flush possible if 2 other clubs come. So that's really, very nice. And that's why this is why it has the best equity. And all of these hands are represented on this graph. And if I change, yeah, you can see that the different line or curve highlights. So this is the curve of our hero on the UTG, this is the curve of the button, and this is the curve of the big blind. So first thing we can see is the big blind is basically crushing us, yeah. So his worst hand is almost as good in terms of equity as our best hand, yeah. So our best hand, our best hand is pair of jacks, yeah. And even with his ace queen or king queen, he's got some okay equity because he's gonna have 2 other cards anyway to us, yeah. So this is very, very nice to understand who's got the range advantage. So very clearly the big blind has a huge range advantage, and also who's got the nut advantage. So whenever you see equities like, you know, equities like 90% like this one, this is clearly a nutted hand, yeah. Like it's very, very, very hard to beat. You probably need a runner or something like this to beat it. So since he's the only one with aces and kings, then he's got lots of nutted hands. And now you will think, yeah, but a 5 beats that, so surely how can the aces and kings be the nuts? And the answer is because if you look at the ranges, nobody has 5s. I don't have ace 5, I don't have king 5, 5, 6, 5. Nobody has any 5. And that's again very interesting because there are so many cases where you will see a flop. Let's say let's say a flop which is 998, yeah, and you're like, oh man, I can have a 9, what can I do? But if you make the correct range elimination and if you make the correct read on your opponent's range, sometimes you will realize that some hands are impossible. Like, again, if I go ace, 4, 5, and this is a 4-bet pot, like 4-bet pre-flop. The straight is 3 and 2 mates a straight. But who has 3 and 2 in a 4-bet pot? Yeah. If you do see somebody with 3-2 offsuit in a 4-bet pot, please make a note on him and chase him relentlessly. But by all means and logic, nobody will have 3-2, so it's impossible for anybody to have a straight. As a matter of fact, it's probably also impossible most of the time for anybody to have a set of 4s or maybe even a set of 5s. Yeah. So this is very important, and this Flopzilla can show you these things, can show you how ranges interacts with the board. So yeah, so that's pretty good, all of this, yeah? And I think this will be the end for the equity graph. I don't want to go too much in detail, but I think I've given you a good explanation of what it means and how you can use it. And we have 2 more things to talk about, which is the equity matrix. So this takes all of the hands in somebody's ranges, as in the person selected, and shows the equity of each hand. So that's beautiful. So on this particular board, let's just change it again, just for the sake of fun. Yeah. King Queen has 49% equity against every hand in both players' ranges. A pair of jacks has 20% equity, etc. So that's pretty good. And if I change, I can see it updates for every hand of everybody else's range, and that's really nice. So here, for example, 90%, 79, 80, 82%, these are nutted hands. Nobody else has those kind of equities. Best equity I can see is like 51, 94%. And that's pretty much it. So again, the big blind squeezing range is crushing us on this board. And finally, very nice here, this is the hotness chart. So this is not the hotness as in, oh man, that's hot, but rather something about what cards are good and bad for somebody's range on the turn and the river. You see, you know, lots of different pros where like, oh, so the turn comes with 3 of diamond, that's a very good card for my range, so I'm gonna bet. And you're like, how is that a good card? I don't understand. And this is the answer. Flopzilla gives you the answer. On this board, if I am the big blind, basically everything that's green is good for my range. Everything that's orange, yellow is bad for my range. And if it was red, I'm sure I can find, yeah, so here it's kind of red, then it is really bad for that person's range. And why would some cards be good or bad for a range? Again, it's because the interaction of everybody's range with the board matters a lot. So with this guy that has lots of overpairs and lots of overcards, he doesn't really care. He doesn't really care if like a 4 comes on the turn, a 3, a deuce, a 5, a 6, he doesn't care. Like most of the time he's gonna have overpairs, so nothing changes really. The only thing that will change, as you can see here, are clubs. Clubs are bad for his range because it's really hard for him to have a flush draw. The only flush draw he can have is ace queen suited. Ace king suited is not a flush draw because the king of clubs is right here. So he can't have top pair and a flush draw, right? So any club that comes, let's say the 9 of clubs, makes his range much weaker. Yeah, and again you can see it, he's got 60% equity. Let's actually say a 6, yeah? The 9 went better. So now his equity is 51%, and who picked up that equity? The big blind. Sorry, the button, because the button is going to have lots more flushes because he's got lots of suited hands compared to him and compared to hero, yeah? So that's really important. And if it was any other card, so a queen would be bad because a queen will be bad, ace will be bad. An ace is usually bad because now all of his other pairs lose value. You know, ace queen is okay, I guess, but you know, that's going to give us top pairs as well. That's going to give us like lots of different hands that, you know, 10s, jacks, and queens won't be able to beat anymore. So this is basically this explanation, right? So again, when you analyze hands, it's really nice to see what cards are good for your range, what cards are bad for your range on the turn. This is very powerful and it will help you a lot with understanding what cards are good for ranges and how ranges interact with boards again. So all of this stuff together will make a very, very handy tool for yourself to understand all of those things. Keep practicing it a little bit every day, a little bit every week, whatever your schedule is, and you will improve at poker in no time. Because the more you do this and the more you will play and think, oh, I'm UTG versus the big blind, 6k on the turn, that's an okay card for him, it's not like the best card in the deck for me, yeah, so this will influence my play in a particular way, yeah. So yeah, pretty good stuff, all of this. So I hope that you find this video useful, and that's pretty much it. So I hope you found it beneficial. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.